Hello, oil country. Anyways, I just wanted to quickly get this off my chest. This is episode 1. It's my first ever. Figured let's get some oil country on YouTube and have some fun with it. And this page is directly going to be only for the Edmonton Oilers. We'll talk about, obviously, amongst things that happen in the NHL or things that direct to us. But let's talk about some things. I'm going to have some guests, possibly. So the first thing I want to talk about is the whole Draisaitl thing. Leon won, the Hart, the Art Ross, and the Ted Lindsay, right? All this confusion of people talking about, McKinnon, oh, he should have won. He got robbed again. But I just don't understand. People will go, oh, McDavid and Draisaitl, they have each other. Or Draisaitl's McDavid. Who couldn't score with McDavid? Well, let me tell you something. If it was that easy for anybody, I hate that. It's like people who don't understand, have never played the sport, don't understand. You can't just line anyone up beside McDavid and they're going to score. Because if that was the case, Kassian would be, an 80-point player. He's a 34-point player beside Connor McDavid. We had Milan Lucic. We've had Nugent Hopkins. Nugent Hopkins does not play great with McDavid. They just don't have that chemistry. McDavid needs that guy that wants to get to the net or is a shooter. Unfortunately, Kassian's more of a grinder. They'll try Archibald up there. None of these guys can play with them. You got to also have the IQ, right? You've got to be able to play the game at top level as well against other first lines. McDavid doesn't just make Draisaitl. Draisaitl's centering his own line. He's got a rookie in Yamamoto, and he's got Nugent Hopkins. Nuge finally found a guy that he can play with. He's got great chemistry with, and Yamo just compliments them, gets to the net, gets all the greasy goals. He digs. He's like a 6'4" type of player, but really, he's 5'8", and was a little upset with Tippett, kind of breaking that up going into the playoffs. They're thinking, well, we got to get those two lines going. But unfortunately, I don't understand why the others don't understand. Nuge and McDavid just do not have that chemistry together. We can't play them together. Nuge works well more with a guy like Draisaitl because there's more same speed. They think the same way. Draisaitl's not just going to, break through everyone and coast around the net and try and find someone. McDavid does all those little things and tries to find the guy, but he's just got no one to play with. So yes, Draisaitl, of course, helps himself with McDavid and he plays great with McDavid, but you can't tell me Kassian, Lucic, and Archibald and Pat Maroon, all these guys, where are they all? If McDavid makes all these players, why aren't they on the line? Why are they not all 80-point players? Because the fact is Draisaitl's a great player and can play with Connor McDavid because of his IQ and because of his game style that he plays. It irks me because it's the fans who don't watch and it just looks like they watch highlights or, they see a stat sheet and, oh, well, they're on the power play. Okay, so in all of the NHL, how about the fact that we got Boston Bruins have a trio, Marchand, Pasternak, and Bergeron. So should they none of their points count because they're all together? Is that a big issue? No. They have a chemistry. They play good together, and that's Boston's, repertoire, and that's the way they want to go about things. Doesn't make Pasternak a bad player, doesn't make Bergeron a bad player, or Marchand. They complement each other, and there's nothing wrong with that in the sport. There's just, you need chemistry, camaraderie, all of that has to be combined into one. McKinnon plays with Langskog and Rantanen. Well, that's a trio. Rantanen does as much for McKinnon as McKinnon does for Rantanen. And Rantanen was just absolutely brilliant in the playoffs this year for the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, those two got great chemistry. Should we just not count McKinnon's? Don't put that Draisaitl somehow doesn't deserve to get his awards because he puts up the points. Draisaitl has the number 1 points in the last 2 years out of any player in the NHL, 215 to be exact. That's not a fluke. That's a guy that has gotten better each year, and he centered his own line this year, most of the year. Yes, he has McDavid to play with. That's not his fault. That's not his fault he's got chemistry with McDavid. That's not his fault he's a great player and knows how to think the game and knows where to go, knows how to pass, knows how to score. And so does McDavid. That's how hockey works. Everybody has duels. Point and Kucherov, do they not count either? Because they're two great players, so none of those points count and one of them shouldn't win? You're in a sport where it's not individual. That power play is the number 1 power play in the NHL in, 40 years? That's not a fluke. And that's not just Draisaitl and McDavid. Yes, start giving credit to how great these players are and how well they can feed and make other players around them better. Draisaitl finally, has got his line, and that's great. That's what we want to keep. Draisaitl has now put up 105 points and 110 points this year in, 71 games? That's not because of Connor McDavid. That's because he's improving and he's learning the game. He's learning the pro and he's learning the NHL ways of, okay, I can do this. I can't do that. Oh, I got to adjust here. That's a guy that's gotten better in the league. So don't come to Oilers fans or don't go against Edmonton and start freaking ragging on Draisaitl. He doesn't deserve it. Draisaitl deserves it. He's that damn good. And if you don't like it, it's tough shit. So at the end of the day, does Draisaitl deserve his awards? Of course he does. How does he not? What does a player got to do? Stop giving the fact that he plays with Connor McDavid. He doesn't play with Connor McDavid all the time. And it's not his fault that he has chemistry with Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid does not make every single player beside him. Like, that fan that writes on, TSN or something like that. Like, oh, put me in there and I could score. No, you've never played the game. You have no idea what that means. We now got to build something for, obviously, Connor. And for me personally, I think we should sign Ennis, see how he does with McDavid, maybe a year or 2 years, depends what they want to do. Obviously, if it's 2 years, it's got to be for the right price because, just in case it doesn't work out, you do not want to be stuck with a contract. We know how that works. But you got to find a winger. He doesn't make every single player, even a 50-point player. He will get the best out of them. Zach Kassian, I love him. He's got the grit, and I want him on my team. But he's not a first-line player to play with McDavid. They got to get out of that fact. All right, so I just want to quickly, talk about Edmonton, what we need to do here in the offseason. I think Edmonton's got to get rid of one of Klefbom or Larson. They got to get rid of a $4 million, price tag. Next year, for sure, I think we get off the books Larson and Russell, for sure. And that'll be, $8 million plus taken off. But I think we need to do that one this year. I would like to keep Nurse only to the fact that Nurse is younger. He also is physical, and I think you do need that. You just need to find the right guy to play with Nurse. I don't think Bear is the right option, but right now it's what we got. I think we need to get rid of one of Larson or Klefbom. Klefbom, due to the fact, I love his contract. His problem is he's injured a lot, and if you really look at his numbers, he doesn't score much 5-on-5. Yes, he's on our power play, and at the end of the day, we need to find somebody that's a true pairing and a true top player. So you either got to bite the bullet, keep Clef because of his contract, he's young. Then you got to somehow move Larson. If you got to move that for a pick, you got to not get as much back. It's okay. Save room on the salary cap because we got to find somebody to play with McDavid and we need some room. It's like if you look next year, so not this year upcoming, but the following year, we have a lot of contracts coming off the books, and it's good because we got to sign some players, right? But this is why we got to make a little bit of room this year, and we got to make sure we find a goalie. It's vital. You can't keep wasting McDavid and Draisaitl. You got to find a goalie. It's been proven this year again, showing that if you got a goalie, you got a chance. Too many times I see us making excuses for why these bad goals go in or why our bad luck is on Koskinen and tip-ins. Oh, it's not his fault. You know what? Goalies have to make tough saves, you guys, too. And the fact that, yes, Edmonton's defense is not the greatest. I'm watching a team like Dallas get outshot by 2 different series, and their goalie's saving grace, right? That's what happens. Carey Price takes out the Penguins literally by himself, getting outshot. You got to have a goalie that can make tough saves, and you got to stop making and hoping for a goalie to become a number one. Get a bona fide guy that can play, be the number one, and relax the team. When you have a strong goaltender, everybody feels relaxed. Everybody plays a little bit less, instead of so much pressure and, oh, I better make sure I'm here and, oh, check all the X's and O's. So this year, we got to make sure we get a starting goaltender. This year, we got to make sure we get a player from McDavid. That does not mean go out and grab a freaking Taylor Hall for $9 million or something crazy. I'm thinking what about Arizona trade somewhere where can't we make Kemper and OEL work coming here? If we're getting off the books, maybe, I don't know, just play it somewhere. If I'm giving a first-round pick if I can get an OEL and Kemper. I'm giving them freaking Larson. I'm giving a first round. I'm giving Pool RV. I'm giving them maybe one more prospect. You can make that work. But you only get rid of that one first round draft pick if it is the right deal because we don't have a second or third. I don't even think a fourth. So you got to make sure. But if you're getting a guarantee, I want the goalie guaranteed. That's going to help us. It's just because we can't waste any more years with Connor and Draisaitl, guys. We got to figure this out. We got to start putting the pieces in the... Everyone's all up in the air. I know it's, is OEL good? Ekam Larsson. Yes, he is. He doesn't have a team he's been playing with. Who's his best? Who is this guy's players he's been playing with all these years? I just want to wait and hear. Phil Kessel, Clayton Keller. I mean, come on, Garland. Finally, Taylor Hall comes in there, but you guys, this guy's got no one. Put him with a guy like a Connor McDavid or Draisaitl to pass that puck to a guy that can freaking fly out of the zone. And never mind that, Connor's going to feed off that. I mean, that's how you win. You got to get the right pieces in. Unfortunately, OEL is known to play in Arizona, so I don't know what more he can do to help that team. But I know one thing, he does a lot for a team that doesn't give a lot back. And I'd also look at the Winnipeg Jets. They need defense. Now, if they want a Nurse, I'm dangling Nurse. Okay, you want Nurse? Maybe I get... And remember, you throw in a Pool RV and you throw in, maybe a prospect, thinking even a Larson or a Clefbaum, and you throw them with Pool RV and you throw them with maybe next year's draft pick of some sort. I don't know, but you got to go. And then if you're doing something like that, you got to get somebody back. And I would assume Ehlers or a Laine, right? You need somebody that's going to score and somebody that's useful, clearly. I like that. I think that now works in our favor. Now, we're not getting a goalie out of this deal, unfortunately, but we're getting a guy that can definitely play for a Connor McDavid. Laine to me is interesting. Laine for me is not a player I would want tremendously. If I didn't have a Connor McDavid, I don't think I want a Laine. I find Laine very lazy. I find that he's just really has a shot, but he's lethal on the power play. And his shot is lethal. This guy can score from anywhere. Second best shot, behind Ovechkin. And maybe arguably with a Matthews, that type of shooter, right? Score from anywhere. He will benefit from a Connor McDavid because Connor will be feeding that guy left, right, center. Now, like I said previously, it doesn't mean we have to get a Laine. We can get a guy that's greasy, gets to the net, and just somebody, though, that that can play first-line minutes, that can play against first-line, opposition. So I think these are little things that we got to figure out this year. We do have to do something. We can't just stay put and make little, adjustment, or, we'll sign Ennis. Maybe we'll add in Pool RV. You know what, Pool RV, I'm ready to ship him to the right team, but you dangle him with a trade, a team that needs a defenseman, a team that, might want that focus of, we don't need to do a lot, but we need to do a little. And when I mean little, that means important little pieces added to the team. A goaltender, a defenseman, and I would like a guy that can play with Connor. Hey, let me put it out there. I think James Neal actually can play with Connor. I liked him up there. They just need then, if you're going to put up a Neal up there, you got to put someone else who can play them. I would try an Ennis, McDavid, Neal. So I'm not out of the books of that. If we can get a star goalie and a star defenseman, let's put Neal and let's get Ennis up there. So there's so much we can do, but we just got to find the right pieces. What does Holland want to do? What makes sense for Edmonton going down the stretch from there? And you know what? Neal played fine in the playoffs. He was producing. He's one of the few that did produce with McDavid and Draisaitl and Nuge. So I like Neal with McDavid. Neal's a shooter. So if you got two guys that can, play, make, skate, think the game, Neal now becomes that much more better and important on that line. So let's discuss. Let's go Oilers. And I'll see Edmonton next year, obviously, for the World Juniors and some Oiler games. So there'll be lots of more content. The draft's coming up and free agency, of course. So let's get excited and let's talk Oilers hockey. See you guys. Jesse, out.